video number 10 of my 13-part video series entitled The 13 Big Mistakes that Beginning Saxophonists and even experienced saxophonists are making that are preventing them from moving up to the next level or even getting started in the first place. This one is a huge one, video number 10. Now this one, I really believe is bigger than most of the other stuff out there. Not necessarily bigger than getting started, right? Fear of getting started. Not necessarily bigger than that second one, which I spoke about, which is too old or not talented enough. But it is related to that. And this is the idea of not understanding your music theory and your intervals. So let me put it plainly to you. The level of musicianship, which is defined as the ability to understand the motion of music, which is required to play the saxophone, is huge and on a high level. This is very much the case. I even think it's even on a higher level than even some stuff like piano, because of the fact that a pianist is able, if they have the technique, to actually play the piano and read sheet music all their life. Contrary to popular belief, classical concert pianists are very poor sight readers because they don't sight read. They learn pieces over and over again. By the time a so-called classical pianist is recognized as a concert pianist worldwide, he's probably played the repertoire you are hearing more than 1,000 times. And I'm not joking, because he played the same pieces when he was young, he played the same pieces when he was in the music conservatoire, and he practices more or less the same pieces every day. So as a result of that, very rarely is he taxed with the issue of playing by ear and having to understand music theory on a much deeper level than what he's playing. However, with the saxophone, we have two overlapping problems. The first one is the issue of our history, which I've hinted at. The point is this: because of our history, the saxophone is judged by your ability to play jazz and more popular styles, which are played by ear. In order to play by ear, you need to have a very good level of ear training, better known as practical musicianship, which is simply a measure of how quickly you can play a melody which you hear. So if you hear a melody, if you can play it back. Now there are techniques and tips to get this right. And I myself am working on a course on how to play by ear proficiently. It's not out yet, but hopefully by the time you see this video, it will be out. You can check it out on my website, PlaySaxNow.com. But the important point to realize is that you need to understand music theory first before you even begin to understand playing by ear. And here's something I have with a lot of these so-called play by ear people. I've heard a lot of people say that, well, I play the saxophone by ear, particularly those of a more spiritual inclination, as though it's like superior to playing it with sheet music. No, it is not superior to playing with sheet music. The truth of the matter is this: playing by ear has a very real definition, particularly as we are musicians. And this shocks many of these so-called play-by-ear types. When I say to them, really, I sing a song. Now play that song on the saxophone. They can't do it. I play a series of notes on the saxophone. They can't name the notes. But they claim they can play by ear. So it's important to understand that even the idea of saying to people that you can play by ear requires structure, technique, and a system. What most people say when they say they can play by ear by the saxophone means they can hack it. What I mean by hack it is that they'll listen to a recording over and over again until they kind of figure out what notes are in the recording, and then they play something. That doesn't mean they can play by ear. That means they're good at sitting there patiently listening and hacking through things. Playing by ear actually has a very real meaning in music. It means you understand your music theory so well, you're able to understand concepts just by hearing them, instead of reading them, which most musicians do. So I found the proficiency of many so-called play-by-ear saxophonists, particularly in the amateur world, is extremely poor. They're not really playing by ear, but at all. They are guessing. So in other words, their way of learning a piece is guessing. In other words, there are only 12 tones in a scale. So if you listen to it often enough and play with the record often enough, you kind of guess what's going on. And this is also the approach taken, strangely enough, by classical conservatoire teachers. They don't actually tell people that there's an entire method of how to learn to play by ear. Again, you'll get more information about this in my subsequent videos of how I went about learning how to do all this stuff. But it's important to understand from day one that musicianship and music theory are not out there. Playing by ear and music theory and reading sheet music are not far apart. They are rather very close sisters. In fact, I'll go even further and say that they're actually Siamese twins. They're actually joined at the hip like this with these little twins doing this, right? And you can see a picture of Siamese twins where I'm actually reflecting on this point. The point is that the more you know about music theory, and this is Western music theory, understanding the 12 tones of the scale, understanding bits and pieces of this, you will become a better player. Let me give you a flavor of some of the things which, if you don't know, are a problem. Number one, the saxophone is a transposing instrument. What does that mean? What this means is this. When you play an C on the saxophone, on the alto saxophone, it sounds like an E flat on the piano. Transposing instrument means it's not pitched in concert pitch. Concert pitch is merely the A is taken at 440 hertz. Already, I can see some of you are getting lost with what I'm saying. And this is just the basics, by the way. You need to know, one, the saxophone is a transposing instrument. It is pitched in either E flat or B flat. This is relative to concert pitch. Concert pitch is the pitch of the piano, the violin, and the guitar. By the way, this is the reason why piano, violin, and guitar are used a lot in popular music, because you don't have to deal with transposition. Transposition is what happens when you have to take an instrument into a different key so that they sound the same. They're playing the same note as the piano and the saxophone. So that is huge. I have met many saxophonists who consider themselves good players, who don't understand that the saxophone is a transposing instrument. That if you're playing in C with the piano, actually the pitch of the alto saxophone and the baritone saxophone is E flat, which is a minor third above C. Again, another concept, minor third. What is that? That is a theory concept. Again, if you don't know what a minor third is and all this, you need to refer to my theory course in which I go through all of this in detail. Again, if you don't know that, you go into a jam session and the person says, okay, we're playing this in C, and you think you're in C. Even the fact of knowing what E flat is, that's an E flat major scale. Do you know your scales? This is another thing again, which many people don't realize. You need to know this as well. So even if it's C, you have to know, okay, it's C, what? Okay, it's in the key of C. It means I, as a saxophonist, I'm on alto, I'm on E flat, right? It's different if you're on tenor. Tenor is actually in B flat, which is a whole tone or a step below concert C. Again, language. What is a step and what is a tone? Music is different for different people, but as I'm in the English-speaking world, I have to say this. In the UK, we refer to music terminology in music theory and musicianship different to our American friends. For example, there is really music language in British. It's different. For instance, we refer to a crotchet, a minim, a semiquaver, a quaver, a hemi-demi-semiquaver, a semi-brief, and a brief, right? That's the language we use in the UK. In America, they don't use that language. They say a quarter note, a whole note, a double whole note, a half note, a 16th note, a 32nd note. This is a completely different language, right? When I speak about intervals, in American, we speak about whole steps and half steps. In British, we speak about tones and semitones. Even understanding that distinction, that is music theory. You don't understand this, you'll be lost when people are having a pretty basic discussion about what is happening musically. So you can see how we speak very different languages depending where you're from. In Britain, we have a very unique way of understanding this. That's why we use the words crotchet, semiquaver, and all. I was trained in the UK system, so those are the words I use. But I also, in all my courses, also refer to the American terminology. For instance, a crotchet is a quarter note in American. A step is a tone in English. So what Americans call a step is a tone. A semitone is a half step. So realizing that there's this different terminology is huge. And before you start to say to me, this is basic, some of you more experienced guys, it's not. Because I had to tell you this, of 90% of saxophonists I do meet and teach, they don't know this exists. The majority of music teachers simply teach doing this. I quit with one teacher when he kept saying to me, oh, play an eighth note. I said to him, for crying out loud, it's not an eighth note. It's a quaver. He said, I don't know. I said, yes, but I'm in the UK. In the UK, we call them quavers. He was trained in Spain using the Spanish system, which is like the American system, right? And I wasn't happy with that because he should know that in the UK, we use the word quaver. And anyone trained in the British system knows a quaver, right, is what we say for an eighth note. So all this it has to be taken into account. So if you don't understand all these problems, you can see why there are many problems when it comes to learning music, because we've got interesting terminology. To add even more insult to injury, you have to realize that we play with a 12-tone scale, which is called the Western classical scale, which is equidistant. It means that each note is an equal distance from each other. This has its own problems and idiosyncrasies, but you have to understand that. We play with notes from A through to G, right? And each note has unique ideas. For instance, take the example of what is a F flat. An F flat and an E are the same note. But without understanding your music theory, you will not understand why that is so. So as you've seen, it is important to understand a comprehensive idea of your music theory, your notes, your practical musicianship, so that all these blend together, because music is theory. Now, I don't want to leave you hanging, right? There is a course that I have on this, but I've put one book below here, which you can actually sit down and go and buy, which takes you through all of this. Admittedly, it is an American book, so it takes you through an American perspective, right? I've also got my own course on music theory and practical musicianship concepts, beginner level. Bearing in mind, we're going to build on this to another level. There's also some other stuff which you'll see in subsequent videos where I suggest a course from one of my friends, good friend and mentor, who you will learn about in subsequent videos. I also have a supplement, because bear in mind, he's an American guy, he teaches using the American system. I have a British supplement, and a supplement which is specifically designed for the problems which we have as saxophonists, which you will get when you decide to invest in his course. Again, this is all coming up in a subsequent series. But what I want you to take away from this is 5 points. And here's the summary. Number 1, music is theory. Without understanding your music theory, it's very difficult to either play by ear or read sheet music. Both share the same thing, right? Remember that the Siamese twin example. They actually are like 2 heads but 1 body. This is very important, right? So music is theory. You need to understand this theory. Number 2, we speak different languages depending where we are. The way Americans describe musical terminology and the way British people living in the UK describe it is very different. We use different words to describe the same concepts. Number 3, and this is crucial, the saxophone is a transposing instrument. Again, I go into this in great detail in my courses because people don't explain this fully. What this means is that unlike the piano or the guitar, where if a person says we're playing in A, you play in A, you have to transpose it depending on what saxophone you're playing in. Number 4, and I also think this is crucial, this is where many people get confused because they have not put the time in to learn the music theory. I've just told you about some concepts which are really beginner level concepts, but I understand that many of you are confused. So realize that all this come about in number 4 because we have an equal tempered scale, meaning all 12 tones of our scale are the same distance. This is from the movements from one A to the next A, 1 octave to the next octave. Even the concept of an octave will have to be explained. And number 5, the more you know and understand practical musicianship and your music theory, the faster you will progress as a musician. This is critically important because you are able to understand and catalog sounds far quicker than someone who does not know this. So just learning and understanding this is huge. Again, I have a course on this. I have a resource below, which is not mine, but it is a resource which I have used and I've found very powerful. So if you're on my blog, if you're on the YouTube channel, check out the resource below. Go and get a copy of this book to get you started on getting clear on this, right? Once again, when you get this resource, and subsequent resources, I have put a supplement in which is for English players, I mean people living in the UK who use the UK terminology. And by the way, you should know both because you'll be confused if you don't know both. So you should know how the British say things and how the Americans say things. So I hope you've learned a lot from this video. So we're going on to the next video. So this is video number 11, which is I'm going to do a totally different concept. And video number 11 is not playing freely and not playing what's in your head. Now, this is a very powerful one, which I think you need to actually get into understanding. It's a very big mistake, which again, I've spoken about in subsequent videos, but I want to go into much more detail. Not playing freely. So remember once again to share this video. Like the video, share it, comment on it, send through your different comments to me. I do read my comments. I will get back to you in the fullness of time. So remember to go in play your sax now.